You think Tyler Perry built an empire on talent? No. He built it on power, an engine that runs itself, opens its own doors, and silences anyone who gets in the way. And now that engine just got hit with a hammer. A lawsuit describing serious allegations, with a number attached that makes people sit up straight. $77 million. We're not ruling on right or wrong here. We're asking one question. If there's no smoke, why rush to pull the curtains? You think Tyler Perry built his empire on talent? No. He built it on something more dangerous. Self-sustaining power. A system that writes, shoots, distributes, and decides who gets to walk through the door and who gets frozen out in the hallway. In Hollywood, being hated isn't the scary part. Being muted is a death sentence. And right when that machine looked untouchable, a hammer came down on the glass. A lawsuit with serious accusations and a $77 million demand. The real question isn't only true or false. Question is, how many times do stories like this get swallowed before someone finally dares to put it on paper? And note this clearly. What follows is what's alleged in the lawsuit and reported, not a court ruling. Now look at that castle built from laughter one more time. It isn't made of bricks. It's built from the moment an audience laughs, from box offices shaking, from a line of dialogue spreading online like a virus. Every laugh is a stone. Every hit is another floor. And the man in the center, Tyler Perry, isn't just a director or producer. He's a machine that feeds itself, creates content, controls production pace, decides where every project goes. In an industry where most power players survive on boardrooms, backroom deals, and closed-door parties, Perry chose something scarier. Build an entire world so he never has to ask anyone for anything. And when you don't have to ask, you don't have to bend. When you don't bend, everyone around you starts adjusting themselves to fit your order. Put yourself in the shoes of an unknown actor, starving for roles, desperate for a break, standing in front of 100 locked doors, casting calendars dead silent like a graveyard. Then suddenly one door swings open, bright, glowing Tyler Perry. One nod, and you go from nobody to in the project. It sounds like a miracle. But every miracle has a price, especially when the person handing it out is also the one holding the key. And here's the truly frightening part. When power gets big enough, it doesn't need to threaten. You just need the silence. In Hollywood, people aren't afraid of being disliked. They're afraid of being frozen. No more calls, no more invites. Your name vanishes from lists like you never existed. All it takes is one whisper, "Don't touch that person," and it's over. The system doesn't need an argument. The system just needs to look away. And that's why, inside empires like this, silence stops being a choice. It becomes the entry fee for staying. Then the $77 million number shows up like a fire alarm. According to reports, the plaintiff named in coverage is Mario Rodriguez, an actor who appeared in Boo, a Madea Halloween. Even the title smells like light entertainment, Madea, laughter, that brand Perry used to build his castle. That's exactly why it hits harder when heavy allegations are placed next to that world. It's like you're at a packed party, music loud, everyone laughing, and then suddenly, the power cuts. The laughter dies in people's throats. And if you're wondering why $77 million makes people straighten their backs, remember, it's not just money. It's a message. I'm not here to be soothed. I'm here to shake the order you're sitting on. But the story changes temperature somewhere else, because it's described as a pattern, not a single impulsive moment. When something is described as repeated, it stops reading like a scandal and starts reading like a motif. One incident can be argued away as a misunderstanding, Multiple incidents publicly get read as habit. So according to the reporting around this case, what time period are they saying this happened? And where did it happen when there were no lights, no cameras, no clean version to polish? In the reporting on this lawsuit, that alleged sequence is described as spanning roughly 2014 to 2019. 5 years. 5 years isn't a party night. 5 years is long enough for someone to talk themselves into just endure a little longer. Long enough for hope to turn into routine. Long enough for discomfort to become a lump in your throat you can't swallow. And that length makes the $77 million demand feel strategic. It puts the system in a position where, if there's a pattern, then every day of silence before this becomes a debt. And then comes the part that really chills the room. The setting. According to the reporting, the alleged situations weren't on red carpets, not on stage, not in crowded places. They're placed in private spaces, where power doesn't need makeup. One detail that lands like a nail. Some incidents are alleged to have happened at Tyler Perry's private residence in Los Angeles. According to the lawsuit's allegations, this isn't described as vague invitations or accidental contact. It's described as a series of coercive acts repeated over time, with Tyler Perry accused of forcing Mario Rodriguez into unwanted sex on multiple occasions, from private meetings at his Los Angeles home to other closed environments where power becomes the only weapon. And to make the dynamic even more toxic, illegal drugs such as cocaine are alleged to be introduced as a tool of manipulation, promises of roles and opportunities, then turning a target into a puppet inside a power game. Not a single misunderstanding, the allegations claim, but a 5-year loop from 2014 to 2019 long, enough to turn hope into fear and silence into something you can't choke down. These are allegations, not findings, but the picture painted is of a dirty system where drugs blur the line between opportunity and trap, leaving a person asking, am I living or am I just existing to serve the empire? And when $77 million gets thrown on the table, it lands like a delayed bomb, forcing the public to stare at the shadow behind the Medea laughter. Private home is where the rules change completely. No audience, no public guardrails, no big crew to cling to like a life raft. Just one ice-cold question. Are you there for the opportunity or because you can't say no? In Hollywood, can't say no is rarely spoken out loud. It's spoken through circumstances, power gaps, and the feeling that if you embarrass the wrong person, you don't just lose a role, you lose your livelihood. And this is the thread that makes every denial feel suffocating. Repeated. You can deny one moment. You can argue one encounter. But once the public starts sensing a rhythm, they don't read it like an accident anymore. They read it like habit. And the habit of a powerful person is scarier than a burst of impulse, because habit usually comes with a dirty belief. I won't pay for this. So look at $77 million as a message, not just a price tag. It's like a sign hung on the gate. I want the court to see the full picture, not a single moment. From here, Hollywood almost certainly flips into its favorite mode, a war over definition. One side will try to frame it as baseless accusations, money motives, a blown-up story. The other side will try to lock it in as a power pattern, a toxic environment, coerced silence. In that war, every detail becomes ammunition, an invite, a meeting, a locked room, a time span. And the same detail can be twisted in two opposite directions. But there's one moment where the room temperature drops. When the story stops being seen as only about one person. According to reports, the lawsuit doesn't just target Tyler Perry as an individual. It pushes the story toward a system question. Who was nearby? Who benefited? Who looked away? Because when a story shifts from one person did it to a system allowed it. It changes state immediately. It stops being a single brand crisis. It becomes a moral test for everyone connected to the chain. From here, everything runs like two trains on parallel tracks. One train in court. Lawyers dissecting every word, weighing every comma. One train in public. Hot headlines, breakdown videos, comment wars, insiders multiplying, and the crowd turning into an unofficial jury. Between those tracks, $77 million glows like neon, making the story hard to sink quickly. But don't let the number fool you. The real battle is over who gets to define the story, because whoever controls public emotion controls the axe hanging over the brand. And Tyler Perry isn't just a name. He's a brand built on positive feeling, laughter, comfort, release. So when heavy allegations get placed next to that brand, it creates something toxic. It turns entertainment into a moral question. You watch a comedy scene again, and you don't just laugh. You wonder, what's behind this laughter? One small question, and the whole atmosphere changes. And Hollywood hates anything that changes the atmosphere. The system's next reflex usually isn't clarify the truth. The reflex is to reformat the characters, turn the accuser into an opportunist so others fear speaking up, turn the story into a scheme so the audience gets tired and looks away. And looking away is what the system wants most. Because in power scandals, they don't need you to believe them. They just need you to get bored, scroll past, lose the energy to dig deeper. Then they win without proving anything. But this time there's one factor that could make the mudslinging harder. The story is reported as a multi-year sequence. And when the public hears 2014, 2019, they automatically start pattern hunting. Did anyone speak up before? Were there signs that surfaced and got pushed down? Was there someone standing at the edge of the story who saw something? Those questions are what make doors shake. And here's where things level up fastest. When the story leaves rumor territory and enters the territory of paperwork. Not because paperwork always delivers truth, but because it has dates, traces, chains of decisions. According to reports, one name that escalates the stakes is Lionsgate. An accusation against one person can be framed as personal, and the system still has an escape route. But when a major company gets pulled in, it becomes a management problem. Contracts, procedures, email chains, risk officers, insurance, damage control meetings before it spreads. And that flips the question. Not only did it happen, but who knew what, when they knew it, and what they did with it. Did it happen is something you can argue. Who knew, when, and what did they do is something you have to face through traces. Traces don't shrug. They live in schedules, memos, texts, decisions. Who got a signal? Who heard something's going on and chose not to escalate? Who said the softest sentence with the deadliest effect? It's nothing. It's nothing is the scariest password. It doesn't deny the fire. It just delays the moment people have to acknowledge the smoke. According to reports, pulling a company in is also a way to pull in a bigger data vault, to drag the fight from stories toward documents. A story can be twisted, but documents, if they exist, carry a different weight. They don't have to be dramatic, they just have to be there. And once a company is named, risk spreads like dominoes. Partners ask questions, future projects get scrutinized, investors reassess, media watches closer, insiders get pulled into the light, whether they want it or not. At this point, the Tyler Perry story isn't about who tells it better. It moves into the phase the system hates most, the peeling backstage. Outside is still headlines and emotion. Inside is the file. Calendars, emails, messages, statements, people connected. And here's the most dangerous survival tactic the system uses: exhaust you. Flood the zone with mud, detail, argument, until you back away because you feel gross and tired. When you back away, they don't need to win. They just need time. If you don't want to be led around, watch 3 signals. 1. The speed of response and the language chosen when they attack the character instead of addressing process. It often signals fear that the story shifts to a system. 2. Whether the case expands. More dates, more names, more references to repetition. 3. The direction the narrative gets. Pulled, does it get forced back into personal drama, or does it get pushed into structural problem? In Hollywood, one person is a punching bag. The system is what keeps people awake, and that's why this may not fade fast. $77 million is on the table like a challenge, forcing the game to go further. For an empire built on laughter, the biggest risk isn't a single scandal. The biggest risk is the laughter-changing taste. Audiences rewatch light moments and start asking, in that world, who had to stay silent so everything stayed smooth? It's a small question, but it can make the whole castle shake. And that's the cliffhanger for the next episode, where we go straight into the exact Hollywood scandal control machinery the system uses to survive. How PR builds fences to isolate a story. How lawyers set traps to make an accuser look unreliable. How media shifts the spotlight so you argue right and wrong while forgetting the only question that matters. Who knew what, when, and why it wasn't stopped? If you want me to dig into that part, comment one word, dig deep, and hit follow so you don't miss the next episode. Because all it takes is one small detail cracking open, and the entire picture can change color.